Hello everyone, Russell Wright and Matt DeCruz here. I'd like to wish you all a Merry Christmas and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. I know it's probably the hustle and bustle of the Christmas season. We've got all those family things to deal with, and so I know it's a little bit crazy. It's the 19th, I guess, so it's right around the corner. Hope you're all having an amazing holiday and hopefully taking some chill time besides just all this nonstop website creation. Matt today is going to show you, it's going to be a little looser than normal because of the holiday season, and also Matt's been full on creating stuff, so we really want to focus on questions and answers. And those of you who've made it to the webinar, we want to reward you by showing you some of the amazing things that are coming. Those of you who were on last week's webinar got to see some of the new reports, and so we'll just kind of riff a little bit, and do feel free to ask questions using your question and answer box, and we'll try to answer all of those. And again, it's going to be a little bit informal today, so with no further ado, I'll just step out of the way, and thanks for being with us today, Matt.
Hey Russ, welcome everybody. Merry Christmas to you all for the next few weeks if you're going to speak before it's that time. Yeah, today I thought what I'll do is I'll just take you into the development box and just show you some of the new things that are coming out in probably the next week or so. There's some of the things Russ hasn't even seen yet. That's how new they are, but they're pretty cool. We just fine-tune them. And essentially what we've done is we've been going through the whole system and fixing up a lot of things to make the system much more intuitive and even more simpler for you to use. So what we're currently working on is the inline help, as well as a new process help system that's integrated into DWS. And I'll basically just show you how this works. So what you'll probably notice here that will be new is this big help button here. What we've done is wherever you are on the system and you're on a particular page, if you click help, the stuff will tell you step by step what you need to do per page that you're on. That's essentially what it does in a nutshell. But it's very cool because the way it works is you can see we've got two projects over here, or two clusters, and each was one project. We've got 10 projects. The inline help system or process tracking system basically works with you per project to remind you exactly where you are and what you have done and not done. And the way it works is, for example, we're on solid framework at this point in time, and we're dealing with keywords and mapping out the solid blueprint over here. And the way it works is if you click help, you don't know what to do on the screen. What it does is it opens an Ajax window, and it tells you exactly what screen you're on. It gives you introduction to the screen. It then links you back to the documents that are specific to specific terms, where there's more help in video. And then it gives you the steps. Okay, what do I do on the screen? So it says the first one, Q&A. Drill into each keyword you discover in your ISDN process. And then step 2 would be export the keyword list into the Domain Studio. Must be phrase match competing pages. So once we can import our keywords, okay, out of import a DWS our keyword list, we can basically say, okay, completed. We've done that. And as we're going on, every time we come back and we do our task, what it does, it ticks off that step. So whether you are new to the system and you're learning the system, or you're entering into a new phase of DWS, what will happen is, yeah, per project you can actually check the things and see what you've done as you're going through the process. So we've broken down the massive process into bite-sized chunks for you to see as you're going on through the process. So it tells you, create a new empire. So this empire tells you where you go. You click on the top navigation, empires, new empire. So if you go over here, new empire, we can create a new empire. And when we come back to the net process, it tells us into the next step. Once you've done that, you can add new sites. So you can actually go through a bunch of steps and just come back, take them off, and move on. And when you come back to a project over a process of time, and you can't actually remember what step you last stopped on, let's say you're going on holiday for 2 or 3 weeks, with the new system, per project, you can actually see how far people are coming. Now, what's going to happen is all the information that gets gathered through the database will now underneath the reports section, where you can see per project, you can see exactly where you last left off, and you'll then click on a link on the last place where you left off, that last step, and it'll take you back into the system, exactly where you were in a large process. So this is one of the brand new features in DWS, and this is very, very cool, because now what it does is it allows you to basically, first step, have you done all the steps throughout the system, so you don't have to think or remember about it anymore. And the next thing is you can actually teach people. For each step, you can explain it, and we can teach guys to start doing certain jobs that you want to do all the way through. Now, this help system is going to be carried across into the screens for the team members, and on their particular screens, then we're going to have team-specific tasks of what they need to do. So, and things that will guide them, where if they click on something, they can't find something, what they need to do. So this help system is going to help not only yourselves to learn the entire business, the whole process of building up your sites through AWS, from the ISDNA all the way through to the promotion, but it'll also help your team. So if they get stuck, they don't have to phone you up, they can click on the help and it'll start answering their questions. So this is one of the new features over here, and I'd like to get some feedback from you guys while we're still in development on this. Have you guys got any questions on this at the moment? It'd be great to hear your feedback.
Okay, it looks like we are good for now.
Is that all good, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, guys, that's the new feature. The other feature we've done here is this new menu structure is not Flash anymore. It's now HTML5, so the guys using iPads, you can use DWS on iPads, and what's going to happen is it'll all work very nicely. I know with iPads, the last menus didn't work. So that's for the Mac guys and use Mac. You can use this now, and you can take it to your clients. If you're working with clients, you can take them into particular parts of the site. You can actually show them in real time on your iPad, charts and reports and all that kind of stuff. So we're really making it user-friendly for guys that are using those type of technologies. Another thing that we've done is we basically have created the first report that gives you the entire cost of the whole business all the way through, and there's going to basically be another 2 reports that are in development, and the next report basically soon I spent probably a good 4 hours really crunching the process, but then putting business costs to each important step of the process. So you can really break down for your business, you can see what this project is going to cost you way before you even come in. This is part of the quote engine report that we're actually working on. And this report, you'll be able to export it out into Excel and then give that onto a client that can essentially be your quote of exactly what it's going to cost them to build the site. And it's built in a modular system, so when you come to actually work through the report, you can just tick off all the parts that you want to include in the report, fill in the costs of that, and it'll then generate the report for you. That is one of the new things. Okay. Are there any questions, guys, on the system that you want? It's an open forum tonight, so ask your questions, things that are bugging you or things you don't understand you really want to have answered. Go ahead and ask these questions, and then we'll just knock them down. We'll keep this webinar short tonight, but we thought tonight we'd just take you into the system, give you the opportunity to ask any question you want. I can show you in the system and briefly explain it to yourselves.
Seems a little bit low-key right now. We don't have any questions in. Oh, here you go.
Okay.
I don't know. He's talking about plugins. We're not going to talk about plugins today. So why don't you just continue?
Boo. Stephen, the e-commerce plugins, the best thing to do is just go to WordPress and start doing searches from there, and then read up what guys say in the forum comments, and often they lead you to stuff that you can buy paid versions, which are probably more fancy and it's more investment time and put into them. That's where I would start to look for them. Right. Eve's asking, what does page buffer mean? Okay. Guys, with page buffer, I'm going to go back to the Silo Framework screen, and I'm going to Business Rules Filters, and you'll see over here, page buffer. Add a buffer of additional pages. This is an advanced setting in DWS, and when you go through certification and those type of courses, what we do is we we sort of teach you, depending on the market you work in, you can actually buffer stuff. So let's say you're looking at the results from DWS with regards to your articles, and you're analyzing the search engines, and you're seeing that pretty much the place is heavily optimized. There's a lot of professionals in the area. What you can do with the page buffer is you can add up to 10 additional pages, and it'll factor that into each keyword's buffering. So instead of writing 10 articles, you then write 20 articles. It just expands it and buffers it out for you. So it can give you an idea or better feel of what it looks like when you're in the business mode of a year.
Okay, the other question is, how often do you check the change in the conversation, and how do you implement these changes in DWS?
How do you check the change in the conversation? How do you implement these changes into DWS? Ruben, could you expand on that? It's a bit vague. I don't really get what you're asking. If you want to find out about conversations, there's a search engine called Mgili, and I often just have a look there. How do you spell it again? Mgili.
Yeah, I'm not sure what your question means either, Ruben.
Sorry, it's OMGILR. It's a website. It's a very cool website. What you can do with it is you can basically go to the web search once we get to it. Wait to load. Oh, they changed all the stuff, eh? Let's just type in SEO project management. And this is looking at forums. So when it comes back, what you can see over here is the UK Business Forum, first customers, consumers. You can see all the kind of stuff they're saying, and it's got basically management or SEO related projects, which you can see them highlighted in yellow. And off these threads, you can see what guys are actually asking about. So if you want to keep a track on content, you can do that. There's another feature we're building into DWS, just remember it now, and that's Google Alerts. We're going to have the ability where you can just click on a keyword, and it will actually go and set up the Google Alert for you automatically just with the click of a button. And then we're going to use the RSS feed that comes out of that, and we're going to feed those back into the content writing screen, where when you're writing for a particular keyword, if there's any alerts, that content will then be made available for you to actually look at, and you can do all kinds of stuff with that. Right, so you're saying, for instance, if you start pushing and your competition reacts, you know, when the site's up and live, and you find you're doing more work and you want to expand new silos, then all I would do is I'll just come back to the keyword decision screen, and with the silo blueprint, I'll just start adding more content where I want it in the blueprint. That automatically will then feed all the way through to the promotions and open up more promotions. So if you find that competition is starting to push you back, then just expand your silos and just do your promotions and stuff. And that's typically how I would deal with how the competition are doing things. Does that answer the question, Ruben?
Okay. So we have another plugin, another question as well from Deb. On carpet cleaning, you write many pages for carpet cleaning, each within a different city. How much do you change the content for each page? Is this what you suggest in niches like this? How many can you have in a silo with the same city? Same, with the name of a different city. I think I get that.
Well, yeah, well, typically it's the local stuff, right? If you're geo-targeting a specific service, a way to better do it is to basically have all the cities either on the page with the keyword on it. So saying we trade in this area, and you put the cities in, and you can use variations of your keyword. If you put them in the menu structure, typically that's when for each area you have a different type of service, or you got different people doing work in it, or leads in those areas. Then you would specify what their offer is for that particular area. Then it works with having the same keyword and a different locale in it. There's quite a few different things to do. That's more like the local leads type of questions. What I'll do is I'll create another video and I'll cover that in detail and explain it with more detail in the local leads and show you guys what I'm talking about. That'll probably be a better way to do it.
Okay.
Right, Ruben, do you react in WR1 or WR2-3 WRS? How do you deal with the budget? I typically monitor the WR2s and WRSs, the social sites and all that kind of stuff. Those are for driving traffic. The whole point of those things is driving traffic back to your primary website. So you broadcast, you're sending out your videos, the tweets, you having the stuff run through Facebook, you're having the stuff all pinged, all the stuff that we show you. That all happens over there by default when you're working on your primary site. I typically watch my money site. The site that's going to make me money is the ones I keep a close eye on when I deal with competition. And that's typically all I do. The other stuff is just for driving traffic to your site, and then the byproduct is backlinks if they do give backlinks back to you. But that's typically the way I'll go about doing it. Is your money site your priority? If the money site is doing well and you find that you can get more traffic by tweaking the other things, by pushing more backlinks to them, then what you can do is in DWS, when we've got our projects over here, all I would do is in one of the empires, I'll create a new empire, okay? And what I'll do is I'll just call it let's just go like this. Put the name, and I'm going to put the WR2 so I can see it, okay? So create that, and when I create the project, I put the keyword in that I'm targeting on the WR2, and then I just flag it. This is a WR2 site, okay? And I create my project then. Once that's done, then what I do is the keywords that I want to bolster and I want to give a bit of a push on my WR2s, okay, or my WRS2, I'll then basically map out the structure, okay, like we do with the keyword decision screen. I'll then create another little DNA braid for the guys, and I'll actually create a customized promotional plan for those 2 or 3 or 4 keywords that I'm targeting. So you'll have your primary site with all your main keywords you're targeting, and then on the WR2 that I want to give a push, I'll create another project for it, and I'll just run it accordingly. That's where you can keep within your empire. If the empire is set at a cruise, gets segmented into, let's just say, hairstyles, then we've got makeup, and we've got beauty products. There's potentially going to be 3 primary sites, and then we'll have some WR2 sites which we'll be promoting. You can track them in the same fashion just by naming them. So we set it a cruise and set it WR2, you can see it over there. And you can even have a keyword that you're specifically targeting. It's probably the best way of going around managing that, because then you've got scope in your network and control of what you work on. It's not all clustered under one thing, and you know what you're dealing with. So when you're doing the promotions, you're thinking specifically about that WR2. You're not thinking for anything else, and the promotional plan for that WR2 is then intact. The end result is the report tells you exactly what the primary is costing you, and it's going to tell you exactly what the WR2 is going to cost you. So that'll be probably a smaller niche type of thing. Then the cost will be lower, and then you've got everything's in a container, everything's managed, everything's specifically controlled, if you can call it that. And this is how you can build. That's why it becomes the idea of empires, because you end up with multiple sites as you're mapping out your market or your niche that you're dealing with. That's probably the best way to go about managing your sites and your projects. Because those WR2s potentially might be in a different domain as well. So you could even have a different domain track that you can actually see the domain name over here. The primary, the WR2, so when you open that up, once you add a project, you'll see it then. You can actually get a good look and hop across to the websites directly from DWS. So if you open up Sarah's site, you'll then see your primary site. So this is Sarah. She's a professional makeup artist, and she works the press wedding. She does a lot of stuff for client work, all kinds of things. So that's how you go about basically controlling it all. Right, where we? Stephen wants to hear about shopping carts. Yeah, I think that's actually a very good, that should be a webinar itself, Stephen, because there's a lot of things to discuss about how you think about building a site when you're dealing with e-commerce sites. We could do a whole series just on that because there's a lot to cover there. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we're working on the analytics. We've got the reports out now. I've got some code I'm busy testing, which I want to integrate into DWS. There's a few things I'm looking at now, but essentially in the new screens, when we come with the analytics will essentially open up underneath your site. Okay, so we'll click on a link, and it will just take us to a new section of the site. We will see all the keywords with how they're ranking. We're still testing that code out and working on some bugs because obviously we need to have a lot of proxies and all that kind of stuff. So we're still investigating that part of the system, and we're trying a few things internally. If it works well and it's not if it's scalable, then we may release it. But at the moment, it's still on the drawing boards. Right, what's next? Would it be better to create WPMS instead of one site with tens of silos? What do you mean by that? What's WPMS mean, Ruben? I'm not familiar with that term. WordPress management system. Could you just come back on that question, please?
Yes, I mean, Ruben, you're thinking along the correct lines, but it's above and beyond the scope of what we're covering today. Really what we're talking about, Domain Web Studio, is we're not really talking about hosting. We're not talking about WPMU. There's so many ways once you understand website site architecture that you can implement massive empire construction, which is where I know you're going, and that makes sense. But because there's so many different ways to do it, we focus on Domain Web Studio as being, the planning and execution of a WordPress site and a domain. Obviously, you can use WPMU to create multiple sites and to create user-generated content. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but there are some problems with that, and all of that is outside and beyond the scope of what Domain Web Studio addresses. Specifically, the PHP files and configurations when you're using WPMU can be extremely problematic, and they do not work with our plugin as of now. So when you're building subsites in WPMU, I wouldn't really depend on our current version of our plugin to work with that. There are many systems that you can use to build multiple WordPress empire, WR2 and the rest. I would recommend that you start thinking in terms of server-side mass development of WordPress rather than using WordPress MU. Right now, because there's a lot of strange things happening over at WordPress right now. I would avoid upgrading to WordPress 3.5 until you're really clear about what you're doing. I would especially avoid upgrading to WordPress 3.5 if you're using WordPress MU right now. Don't get me started on that one. What I would really start doing is when you start scaling up and building a massive empire, you're really going to want to, of 100 WordPress blogs or more, you're really going to want to make sure that your plugin configuration, everything that you're using together, is not going to conflict. And as most of you, if you're advanced, you know that you can do massive upgrades and massive infrastructure upgrades, and all of a sudden upgrade to the next version of WordPress, and then one of the plugins doesn't work. So a lot of our friends who are plugin developers and in some of our configurations, we're madly trying to fix the errors associated with the recent WordPress update to 3.5, and this is not going to change. These things aren't going to change. So really what we need to have is a webinar about how to handle massive server upgrades. Matt's a server-side thing. Matt's a server-side thinker, so he's going to just try to go to the top level and tell you guys how to manage your server. Most of you on this call are not server-side managers. You think more like I do. And in that case, you really need to be aware that an individual blog update or upgrade is not going to ruin your current plugin configurations like WordPress 3.5 upgrade did for my automatic video empire. Okay, so what you always do is you always have a sandbox where you're testing the server configurations and their combination with the current WordPress as it relates to the plugins that you're testing at the time. So, for example, if you're using managedwp.com like I do, with excellent success, I personally could not live without the service. Matt could very easily live without it because he's a server-side guy. So he can manage multiple installs and this and that, and he does that for some of our empires. If I'm looking at somebody who does not have an IT guy on staff and they're just managing 10, 20, or 100 blogs, I'm recommending ManageWP right now because it's very, very secure. Their PHP implementation is bulletproof. Their security is bulletproof, more or less. And what you can do with that is you can manage multiple blogs and multiple web rings with ManageWP. And it doesn't really matter where you're hosting it. So if you've got a hosting service like, SEO hosting or the rest, ManageWP sits on top of your hosting services. You could have 500 hosting services all from different hosting accounts. It wouldn't matter. You can still manage your WordPress control interface. And so there's a lot of things that you guys need to consider in terms of scaling up. And Ruben, it's the same thing as well with multi-user. Just remember what multi-user actually is from the perspective of PHP. It's an add-on to a WordPress blog that changes your PHP config files substantially. And I have several blogs set up that have WP-MU testing on it. And I did that primarily because I had a social environment in which my users could provide us with content. In other words, you can give them a blog and you can set them up socially. Now, in order to do that, there's a lot of complexity that you have to set up that could mess your server up. So don't assume that because you have a regular WordPress set up with no problems and no holes and no security holes, specifically with TinyMC and all these other things, that when you install a WordPress MU that you're not going to have a security breach, because I've already experienced that. So I would suggest that Matt, probably in the new year sometimes, Matt, myself, and Sue will have an independent course or webinar where we talk about the issues of scaling up with WordPress, because they're a really different, it's a very different set of problems, and it's going to be handled very differently depending upon your level of skills. Wouldn't you agree, Matt?
Yeah. As a rule of thumb, typically what you want to do is when something's released, you want to wait about 3 or 4 weeks before you even do the upgrade, because often you'll see like it'll be 5.6, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 as the actually little things, as the more important people using it, little things come to light. So if you wait a few weeks after upgrade, you have less risk of things breaking. It also gives the developers, like Russell explained, a chance to adapt to the changes, so that by the time you come to the upgrade, everything is prepped and ready and all works.
Yes.
But then always test on the dev server.
Correct. And we recommend that you really understand, I mean, the power of automation is a double-edged sword, you guys, right? You all know that. Like if you take the power of something like ManageWP, where I have like 100 blogs in just one account, if I click upgrade accidentally on the mass installer, and I upgraded 3.4 something to 3.5, and that media PHP error that occurred on 90% of the hostings when WordPress 3.5 was released, every single one of my blogs on my network would have had to have been manually reconfigured. So you have to make sure. My suggestion is that you understand how PHP works, because I know all of you on this call are going to build massive empires with you. I mean, where Matt is going with Domain with Studio in 2013, there's nothing out there like what we're doing. Okay, so you're going to need to understand this stuff. Matt would prefer to use stuff server-side, where as a marketer and as a content network and curator, I like to have ManageWP on some of my blogs, but not all of them. If I'm looking at our W3 blogs, which is our network, our backlinks to our backlink blogs, and we got 1,000 of those, I'm going to let Matt configure all that stuff because there's no way that I'm going to want to even manage that through a WordPress or managed WP control panel, you see? Because at that point, yeah, forget that. We want that to be completely automated. And so this is super advanced stuff that's like borderlining on black hat. But the main thing is that I want you guys to understand that blogs that have certain amounts of importance, there's ways to manage it using manage WP and the rest, or using your own mass control panel. All right, but Matt, I think we should probably in the new year we should have a mass blog course that just deals with server-side stuff.
Yeah, that'd be a good course because there was a plugin I started playing with a while back, which it works almost like WPMU, but essentially what it does, it just gives well, it's a bit of a black hat tool. It creates fake authors, and it uses the power of MU to basically create a network of auto blogs that run.
Yeah, so I do that all the time. I won't put up a blog that's automated without using multiple authors, and there's reasons for that. There is some evidence, it's anecdotal at best, that multiple author distribution can help your SEO rankings. There's more and more evidence that Google's looking at that. So there's a lot of things to consider when we're talking about this stuff. And I want to be really careful here for beginners and intermediates because there are so many ways to blow off your foot that it really does matter. The answer that we give you, that Matt would give you, or that I would give you to some of those scale-up questions is going to depend 100% on what hosting company you're using, how skilled you are. Do you have a server or do you have a web hosting account? Do you have WMU or are you using individual blogs, which I prefer? If you do not have any coding skill, I greatly caution you against using WPMU to build an empire. Unless you know PHP, I can tell you right now that I have 2 major installs of 2 major websites that are 100% automated that generate 150 to 200 visitors per day using WPMU. And I had to go in and manually remove the WMU config file when I realized some of the things that were going on. For example, I could not use Yoast's SEO plugin for video or SEO, SEO for WordPress on sub-accounts inside the WordPress MU filing if I didn't manually change the PHP config file, which cost me several $100s. Okay. So what I'm saying is, like, unless you've got Matt on your team and he's there, he can edit PHP files for you and the rest. You have to really look at your business and your IT debt, like Matt calls it, and to say, do you have somebody on staff who's smarter than you that can help you with that stuff? So really, the way that you scale up really depends upon what kind of money you have, what kind of skill you have, and what your plans are, what you're trying to accomplish. And I have a threefold path that shows you, depending upon who you are and what kind of skill set do you have about which direction you should go. And there are several tools that you should not use if you are not a super geek. And if I'm looking at this call right now, there's a super geek, there's a complete beginner, there's an amateur, there's a novice, and then there's 3 super advanced guys that write software. That's a huge range, guys, isn't it, of skill sets? And each one of all different levels. And each one of you, I would tell you something 100% differently. So we'll talk more about this as it comes up. Now here's some more questions. Eve is asking me on the OneFeed course, would it be possible to provide a list of RSS directories to manually submit to? Does RSS Submit give you such a list? Yeah, Eve, if you purchase RSS Submit, when you're done, they actually let you parse the list of RSS directories that you've gone through. Additionally, Pingler allows you to add its own proxies. I also tested a plugin over the weekend, which ended up being really terrible, called ABC123 Connect, and they're trying to distribute your links across multiple widgets and this and that. Ended up being a total pile of crap, but I did talk to the developer. One of the things that he did is he tried to add additional pingable directories and the rest, and I really didn't approve of any of them when I started going through them. So the standard directories that we already give you, and the safest ones being WordPress's default. So Eve, I wouldn't waste a ton of time trying to come up with better and better directories because they mostly all suck. So you just want to use the WordPress default ping services and then the directories on RSS submit, those guys have provided you with the best ones, and I really wouldn't get too involved with trying to overthink that, because there's about 1,000 different things you can do to get better traffic and pingability, such as your sitemap indexing.
Yeah.
Using Yoast sitemap developers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Russell hit on a very, very important point. Is like don't overthink it. When I first started with Russ and the guys, that's what I did all the time. And Russell said to me, Matthew, you're killing your head. Stop overthinking it.
Well,
and as soon as I applied that, a lot changed for me with my understanding of things.
Yeah, I also appreciate your question, Eve, because you're trying to avoid buying RSS submit, I know, but I can't really help you with that. That's what I use. So there is a cheaper version that everybody keeps asking me about. It's $30. It's the reason that Sue wants to have everyone use that. I can't remember the name of it. David pinged me yesterday about it. I'll try to get that out there. It's $30. I know we're all on a budget. I'm trying to think of what solution I could provide you for, Eve. Probably what you would want to do is just take the top 4 or 5 really hardcore, like RSS Mountain, 8, Syndic 8, is another one. Just take the top 3 or 4 and then just manually submit those. Because here's the truth, guys. For the most part, some of those higher-end services that are owned by like Demand Media, Bot Syndicate, they're buying those directories for a reason. They're going to re-syndicate a lot of those things, and they're going to pull, it's kind of incestual pool of RSS directories. So if you're getting the top 4 or 5, you're probably going to get to the other ones. So I don't want to feel like you're missing out. I can't confirm that because so much is changing in the RSS industry right now that, if you start looking at the behaviors. So don't worry. I was actually
the other day. There's only a handful, Russell. There's not more than 10, eh?
Yeah.
It's not lots.
Yeah, so Eve, even if you set up a manual submission, it's not the end of the world. You have to decide whether justifying, $80 or just submitting them by hand. For me, that's a no-brainer. But for you, it might be a concern right now. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. What I would be concerned about, desperately concerned about, is the updating of your keywords and your sitemap XML for both categories, videos, and pages, as well as media, and of course opting out on the tag directories. The tag sitemap. But make sure that your XMLs. I can tell you that the major under-optimized aspect of almost every student that we're talking to right now is their sitemaps. So everybody on this call, go out and make sure that every single site in your empire has a sitemap. Stop freaking out about Google. And remember that Google is just a machine that's designed. You have to tell them what you're publishing. Stop freaking out about dupe content. I don't want to hear it anymore. There isn't any. The dupe content is on your own site. It's not on other people's site. You're not going to rank as high if you don't have unique stuff happening, but you're not going to be de-indexed for dupe content. Okay? What you will get de-indexed is over re-indexing or over backlinking. If you're using things like Linkalicious, Backlink Indexer, the list goes on, Lindexed. If you overuse those things, and that's the only thing you're doing, and you're not telling Google what you're publishing on your site through your sitemaps, through the Google Control Panel, then you can get some weird things start happening. So everybody should just stop being paranoid about telling Google what you're publishing, and you should be telling them what you're publishing all day long. I don't care if it's an auto blog. I don't care if it doesn't matter. Don't worry about what it's coming from. Just make sure you're telling them what you're publishing so you can get indexed. The fastest way to get indexed is through your sitemap. An even faster way to get indexed is through a video sitemap. Okay, so I'm having incredible luck and an amazing amount of traffic from Yoast's video plugin. Just go out and get it. Don't worry about it. It's going to get you indexed. If you have videos on your site, it's worth it. So when you start using these things in combination, when you're using the backlink services like backlink indexer, so on and so forth, those are not a substitute for your sitemap. That's the main thing that I want to tell you. And I also got to tell you that the free backlink, the free sitemap plugins that are out there, there's a few of them, but they don't work as well as the stuff that I'm testing with Yoast. So that's just kind of a heads up. Okay, Stephen, as far as a non-WordPress sitemap, I've been trying a couple of services out there, and they've just really been doing a terrible job. When I have a site map for a non-WordPress site, I want it PHP coded for me. I'll try to dig up, it's a great question, I'll try to dig up what it is. We had Kelly, our conquistador and Kraken developer, build our stuff in-house for us. And every time that we add a page to that site, it automatically will create a sitemap via PHP, and that's in the code. So that would be one suggestion that I would make. I know a lot of you don't have WordPress sites, so do whatever you need to do. If you're using Joomla, if you're using these other sites that you create, make sure that you have the proper extensions for your sitemap, folks. If you haven't slowed down to really look at your sitemaps, please do it, because it's going to become really, really important over the next 6 months, even more important than it's ever been. Looks like we have another question here about RSS bot. Yeah, okay, Russell, the RSS bot is the alternative, and also Eve, you might be interested in this. RSS bot is a potential software that Sue has been looking at to save you guys money that might be able to replace RSS submit. And I think Kevin Pauly actually used it as well, with good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, I played it. There's a lot of configuring. You got to fiddle a lot of stuff to get it going. That's the only thing that, for a guy who's new to that type of thing, they'll probably battle. You got to sort of sit and really just fiddle around with it. There's a lot of moving parts to get it configured, but once it's up and running, it'll work. Right,
and also wanted to add to everyone, please add their sitemaps manually to Microsoft Webmaster Tools as well. Yahoo you can skip pretty much. They're becoming more and more irrelevant, but you're going to see a boost of traffic when you do that. And again, don't get overly, here's an unveiling about the one feed system, Eve and Russell and everybody else who's asking about this. The main reason that you're going to get a traffic boost is going to depend upon the type of content that's on your site and the keywords and how well your categories are laid out. Okay, there's a difference between pinging and indexing. And RSS used to get you indexed by bulk pinging. More and more we're moving away from that, and I really want you guys to understand the difference between pinging and indexing. And you can't really force Google to get you indexed, even by these services that are offering all the Lindex, Lindexer, Linklicious.me, all these different things. What's happening now is that there's a combination of social signal that is real human traffic, such as tweets and retweets, combined with pinging that gets you indexed. And the whole one feed system, Eve, that we're teaching, that I know people are trying to emulate in-house, the reason that it works is because when there are videos being spliced and integrated through different services, one of the main reasons that a one feed system will get you traffic boost and get you higher rankings is when it is feed jacked. Okay, that means that your content is interesting and compelling enough to get feed jacked, so there's an actual real human traffic, not just pinging that's happening. If you're just bulk pinging stuff, there's no reason to do one feed because you really want to, you might as well just use services like Backlink Indexer and the rest. But a combination of content combined with splicing your video feeds into your content, when that is feed jacked, you get real human traffic, and that's more than just pinging, isn't it? That's actual traffic signal. And what's happening is a pretty amazing combination of pinging, indexing, and social signal that allows the RSS submission via our one feed. This is why we do the one feed system the way that we do. You have to have social indexing with this. I was talking to Matt Trainer about this. This is one of the ways that he set up his system. This is why we've designed the one feed system the way that it is. Bulk pinging is not enough. I don't want you guys to think that you can just pull your RSS feed, run it through RSS submit, and then put it in Pingler and ping it every 2 hours or something. Because I talked to a student who was doing that. That's nonsense, folks. That's not going to do anything except really get you ping back. If you're using things like Ping Automatic, it might give you some fake pings and some fake traffic signal inside your Google Analytics account, but that's not real traffic, okay? And it doesn't necessarily get you indexed. So
yeah, it's just noise there.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody understands the difference between pinging, social signal, and indexing. Just because you're getting pinged doesn't mean you're going to get indexed. What gets you indexed is social signals. Okay, and what gets you indexed is Google sitemaps. If you don't have all these things working together, you're going to see a serious reduction of your traffic. Okay. Anybody else have any questions on this? Eve, did I cover that? Was that clear to you? Because I know you and I have to have a conversation on video because we've been emailing. Is there anybody else who has questions? Is there any confusion whatsoever in what I said? I know it can be a little confusing, the difference between pinging indexing and social signal indexing. Does everybody understand that? Okay, yes. Thank you. Okay, good. Makes sense. Deb, does that make sense to you? Okay, good. So what Matt and I are doing with Domain Web Studio, and it's really been, I'll watch my language here, it's been hell to try to explain to beginners what it is that we're doing. Matt has is starting to incorporate all the one-feed systems, but further in Domain Web Studio, through all the processes, we've taken you through a front-to-back process that honestly, now that I see it, in retrospect, I would never try to build the system again for users. I'm really glad you guys have been on board this long, because this is something that we're going to use in-house. It's a lot harder for us to design the system in a way that makes sense to you guys. So we really appreciate all the feedback that you've been giving us to make this user-friendly, because ultimately, we just want a group of like 150 users who really get the system. Because we're going to be, the front-to-back system, if you really think about it, takes you from great content, proper keyword infrastructure, proper natural language processing and LSI, organizing based on cost, having all your business decision framework put in place that Matt added to make sure that everybody understands what's going on. All of it leading to the development of the content, managing your team to organize all that content so that that compelling content is then syndicated through the web, properly site mapped. Videos are created. Multimedia files from those videos are created. Everything is syndicating through the quadruple sitemap, which is your category sitemap, your video sitemap, your tags and content. Then all of that is going to be syndicated through your promotional social signals, through tweets, retweets, all the gigs that we show you in the promotional content. And all of that will come back through curation reports and repurposing reports and ranking reports. Okay, so it really is the closest to automation that any system out there that we know of that's doing things properly. And that's where we're going. All of this will be step by step in the Network Empire application as we move into 2013.
Yeah.
So that's what we're building for you, and we're really excited about it because it's a lot to manage, and we want you to be able to manage this across 150 blogs using Domain Web Studio.
Well, here's the thing, Russ. If I click on this promotional blueprint, with the new help inline system, don't mistake this inline system for being on another tool. This is actually taking you through the step-by-step process, and you're tracking as you're moving through it. And there's a lot of cool things in here, like, for example, there might be things like step 4, now I need to run the feed through sites that already act up statuses. So it tells you, like in like a sentence, the next process you have to go through. And it goes through the whole thing. And some of the processes are up to like 25 words, row tasks long. For example, on the Silo framework, if we look at that, now Stuart's going through this and refining the stuff. Essentially, we're running through 2 different sets of tasks. So you see here, at first we're working on keyword DNA in this process. And as we scroll down, just going to get to a place where it crosses over from keyword DNA. There we go. So we've gone through the whole process of building our keyword DNA. We've refined the stuff. We've got everything set up. We've done our braid. Then we go to our technical foundation, which is buy and host domain. Then the next thing would be set up the domain and server, configure your blog to be SEO friendly. We're giving you all the checks you've got to do as you're working through this process. And if you just follow this now, it's not just step by step from a modular way. It's the inline help. It's actually procedurally step by step from the start right through to the end of the entire process. Each step is broken down into like micro steps, and that gets you through the whole process, and you'll end up with the end result. But just write good content, write engaging stuff. When you work in your sites, put your videos in. Just be creative for what you're doing, because people really respond to that. And we've designed DWS to basically streamline the whole process, make sure that all the blocks are ticked, so that when we come to attack in the market and take over that market, essentially we've ticked off all the things we need to get done.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
Watch what our teams are doing. We know exactly what's going on at any point in time with our money and with our business. Because this is, if you think of what your online website is, that essentially is your marketing channel. And it's the marketing channel. If you don't get sales, your business doesn't make profit. It doesn't work. The business dies. So this is the most important thing that you are doing when you come into your business. And you've got complete control. And so, there's nothing on the market like it that thinks about this whole story this way.
Okay, so here's some things in 2013 that I want everybody on this call to have a New Year's resolution, because I don't think we're going to talk to you before then. I'm not sure, actually, unless you're on the calls for Kraken and TLKT, is what we really need to get rid of in 2013, and what Matt and I are going to really be focusing on, Sue, is this hurry up and wait. Like, just because you have a monster application like this one doesn't mean that you should be you should really be publishing blogs left and right. Okay, so we want to make sure that you break through and kind of really get your blogs up and running. And I know a lot of you are already doing that. I want to make sure that anybody who isn't making blog empires, this is the first and second quarter this upcoming year, you're going to be actually rolling stuff out. The other thing is that I do want to know on how many people on this call, if you guys have access to your questions thing, because these are important questions for us as Matt and I begin to talk more about this. How many of you have a server? If you could just, when I say a server, I mean that you have your own box. And how many of you are using managed hosting? If you guys could just
managed hosting, VPS, or dedicated servers.
Just let me know if you guys could put in managed or shared or dedicated. Okay, we have a managed hosting. We have a shared, managed hosting. Okay, a lot of you are using shared. Okay, managed.
You guys should consider. They should consider moving or migrating to a VPS. That's like the next progression.
Hey Matt, let's not give any advice on hosting. I just want to get some feedback.
Sure.
I don't want to eat that. I don't want that to come back to haunt us just yet, because you and I need to have a conversation on this. So we have shared. We have a lot of shared, and the majority of people are on shared. Then there's managed. What's managed dedicated? That's Liquid Web. Managed dedicated.
Dedicated is like a box that's like your box.
Yeah, but that's just okay. But that's all right. That's the same as managed then. All right, cool. All right, so that gives us a little bit of an idea. If you guys really want to scale, I want, it looks like Eve that you've got it down, so you're already thinking in terms of scalability. If you're going to have to start thinking as we move into the new year, where are your websites? And I know this is really super basic stuff, but I don't want to assume that everybody has the level of knowledge required, because when you're using shared hosting, you guys understand that you're sharing your web space with thousands of other people, right? Okay, like, I brought down a whole box with like 1,000 websites the other day when I was playing around with messy marketing with one of our DWS things. I brought down everybody, and hey, you could have been sharing a website on my hosting space with me, right, on the same box, and I would have brought down your site. How does that make you feel? Right? And you figure, okay, well, if you had a really good hosting company, they wouldn't let that happen, right? Well, HostGator, maybe. The point is that I want you guys to start thinking more. If you could make a New Year's resolution together, start thinking in terms of beyond Domain Web Studio, beyond depending upon only our software and technologies, because the software that we're building is really designed for people who can start really scaling up. Think about it. You can use managed hosting. That's no problem. We're not designed to, tell you otherwise. You can build whatever empire you want. I just want to throw that in for this New Year's resolution, that if you're serious about scaling up, you're probably going to want to start thinking about multiple Class Cs, and you're probably going to want to start thinking about, having your own box eventually. Even that might be a year away for some of you. Just start thinking about where websites sit, and if you're really thinking about WR2 networks, you might want to start thinking about multiple Class C blocks or multiple Class Cs and all these types of things. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys, and we're just really starting to look at where Domain Web Studio is going, because we're about to integrate all of this into the final application, Network Empire, right, in the first and second quarter of this upcoming year. All right. Yeah. Okay. You want to add some stuff to that, Matt? Any?
Yeah. No. Yeah, guys. If you run through a process and you're pushing a site and you're doing what Russ and I are showing you through this and what Stu shows you, you guys, you're doing much more stuff that's more precise than most people. And if you focus on good content, you will see the results. So yeah, if you guys could just put a thought in the back of the head of what I really want to find out is what are all the real actual bottlenecks. If you guys could just go to Helpdesk and just drop a note saying, look, just label the request bottlenecks or whatever, and just let me know what are the things that really confuse you so I can make sure that they get addressed with the inline system that I'm busy working on now. Because we want to roll these next changes probably next week. It's got to confirm dates with Sue, so don't take it as being gospel. It's got to get something's got to be signed off. But we're going to release a new version, or this point release, pretty soon. That'll be with another 1 or 2 reports as well. So essentially, what you'll end up with is the total report of your whole project and the costs, a breakdown quote engine, and we're looking at a ranking report as well at the moment. So there's some cool things we want to show you guys.
Okay, before we go, since we're not going to talk to you, at least probably until the next year, I don't think.
Yeah.
I would like to end this year with a question to each of you, which will help me out a lot as we're going to drive the software forward, because Matt's dumping huge amounts of time and money into the development. When it comes to building your online presence and generating a passive income online right now, using our tools and all the other tools that you have in your arsenal, what is the greatest part of this? You know that we have 6 and 7 tabs here. There's a process of developing a site and getting it live. What is the biggest resistance point for you? For example, if it's content, put content creation. If it's keyword research, put keyword research. If it's your hosting and the website speed, getting your website fast so it loads quickly, put that. What is the thing, if you guys don't mind, just typing it in a single line that you feel is your greatest resistance, the stuff that maybe annoys you, or maybe you get up in the middle of the night and pace around about it saying, well, the Domain Web Studio team is not really helping me solve this problem. What is it? And be specific, Ruben, a little bit more specific than that. Okay, what is, Okay, I'm going to read some of these out loud, and I'm not going to use people's names, so don't worry. I'm just going to read the feedback. One of the feedbacks we have is Google. Okay, the other one is the promotional side. Okay, got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Somebody's saying here that they really need the promotional aspects to be either more automated or more outsource controlled. That would be the promotional tab in what we're trying to organize for you. Okay, that's really, really good feedback. Thank you. The blueprint, okay, is again the promotional blueprint, the big one. Outsourcer control and delegation. Okay, that's a really, really good one. Okay, here's one I don't understand. I have 500 TLD. What is TLD? Matt, do you know what TLD is?
Yeah, top level domains. That's like the domainname.com.
Oh, okay. So how
not to lose all?
You mean lose the domains? You just keep buying them. Are you talking about losing your rankings? So be more specific, please, on that one. I really need to hear what you're saying there, because that's a great one. You know who you are. Oh, interesting. Graphics and call to action. Yeah, that's a very good point. Your graphics and your call to action is not something that we teach really in Domain Web Studio. It's really taught more in the ISJ in the members area. We do give you a link to banner creator software by a friend of ours in there. And I'm aware that that's a big sticking point. It's not something that we address in a software manner. You guys do have to get good at paying attention to conversion on your site, and that is largely the way that the banners are created. So I really hear you there. Thank you for that feedback. Maybe we can offer some more tips. Here's another one. Google personas and footprints and hosting. Okay, that's a very specific line. Thank you for that. So your concern, the thing that is bugging you, is this idea of Google hunting you down and killing you with their bare hands because they're connecting your personas with some kind of mystical footprint with a hosting IP address, right? Is that what I'm hearing? Okay. By the way, I wouldn't lose any sleep on that. But again, before I say that, I would need to know how it is you're setting your stuff up and why you're you're afraid of that. I guess if all of those domains, the person that I'm talking to, if all those domains are coming from the same server and the same IP address, I can understand why that might be bothersome, especially if they're all pointing to the same money site. If they're not all pointing to the same money site, you don't have very much to worry about unless you're dealing with thousands. Okay, that's just my opinion. But Matt, you want to weigh in on that one?
Yeah, I think we should have a chat on this because I was going to speak about IP addresses. Typically, you want to cluster servers, so you'll have 10 or 20 domains on like shared over 5 IPs.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then you hop to another box. It starts getting more complex, and you got to think about your registrar data and stuff. So I think we just have a call on it because there's a lot of nonsense being spoken out of there. It's actually worse than the internet marketing world because of all the propaganda.
It is, but yeah. They also make it more fearful than it actually is. Just so you know. But and by the way, please know that I'm not saying that you don't do that. It's great to distribute those, and I would have to really see what's going on for you within that. But I would also say that there's a lot more fear around it. Where you really need to be fearful of that, be afraid, be very afraid, is when you are in a market that's extreme. Where I've seen that become a problem is extremely lucrative markets, where there's $50,000 a day changing hands for the top 4 or 5 URLs, and where your market for auto-generating blogs and across multiple sites is in the thousands, and where it's funny because remember, if there's a ton of money moving through a market on that first page of rankings, Google knows about it. And I can tell you this for a fact. When there's that much money moving through a market, they have hand spam indexers working on that case. Because I know this for a fact with the legal market that I was working in, where when there's that much money involved, it's in Google's best interest, who sometimes has direct across-the-table deals with some companies. I know this for a fact. In fact, a billion-dollar company I was in-house with last month, they give $200 million per year to Google. I'm sorry, I have the numbers here. That's way over $20 million per year to Google. So they have a direct access in-house. When you start looking at that kind of money, you have sideways deals, and you have the Google spam department behaving differently than they do with other markets. So just keep in mind, keep everything in perspective about what's going on at the Googleplex, and just assume when you're dealing with stupid money that the rules change just a little bit. And that's when they start looking really heavily at Class C IP blocks. Now, Matt is the kind of person that he goes big, so he's going to want to set that stuff up all in advance. And I will say that there is an IT debt associated with all that. But if I'm looking at somebody, like I had a student, and I had a student the other day, they were in this tiny niche market, and they had like 15 blog websites in the WR2, and they were all freaked out about multiple Class C blocks. But there wasn't serious money running through that niche, and it's like their fear was not warranted with that particular market. Had they been in Viagra, or actually that's not even true anymore, had they been in legal, or one of those or weight loss, or one of those really expensive categories where there's huge competition, I could have seen them really freaking out over that when they were dealing with 50 million pages.
It boils down to this. You got to think of it like a business. There's no other ways of doing this. How much money am I going to make, and how much do I have to spend? And can I spend it? And how big is the market? If I'm in a niche, why must I spend 20 grand a month when I could spend 2 grand a month to get the same result?
Well, yeah.
Just by properly doing my WR1.
Yeah, but one of the things that we have never discussed is your business rules tied to the operational cost of setting up multiple Class C blocks. And that's the question I keep getting. Yeah. So that's why I'm addressing it, because that's what Matt calls IT debt. And when do you do that? Well, you don't do it when you've only got the highest number of competing pages for your money keyword is 100,000 competing pages. Don't sweat it.
We'll put it this way: guys go and buy thousands of domains, right? And they start hiring dedicated boxes, and they start building this thing out. And they never actually look at the market. They sort of heard there's money there, and they set up this whole big infrastructure. And before they know it, they've got all these blog networks But just to have 1,000 blogs to buy the domains, you're going to end up with an $8,000 bill every single year by default. That's just starting off. That's excluding what you're paying for your service. You add your service to host those domains.
Yeah,
you're adding another 10 grand onto it.
Like the main thing.
You start.
Yeah, like
20 grand up.
Like Ruben, the big question I have for you would be: is the fear that you have, or of losing sleep over, is it? Are you dealing with 50 million pages or greater? And if not, I mean, that's a different consideration. I mean, the market that you're in, if it's incredibly lucrative, then it's worth ramping up, maybe getting with Matt, maybe even having a consulting session with him and setting up your IPs in a way that makes sense and diversifying those if you're not already. But if it's not, that's something, and also looking at your money. Let's take a look at this question. The business monetization model is so far the biggest challenge, okay, this person's saying, for multiple websites.
Yeah,
and
I've got an answer for that, Russ, when you're done.
Okay.
Yeah, basically with the business monetization model, essentially what Stu and I are working on is a report that allows you to break down the entire process into products. Everything's basically, your service becomes a product. So people pay you upfront for a product. They're buying a product from you. They're buying a service. This is how we refine the reporting. So when you speak to your client, you essentially can say to them, listen, what is it that you need to build? And they tell you back, right, I've got this. You look at the market, you say, cool, we're going to build a website for this person, and we're going to have to make 3 additional websites. So the new report will basically allow you to work this out just with how we're taking the data from the systems. And it's pretty powerful when you actually look at it, because then you can see how much you're making on a project over a period of time as well. And
that's not really what she's talking about, Matt.
No, but I'm coming to what this report's going to do is it's going to help you with your monetization model, because you'll be able to see exactly what your costs are, what your outlay is to build the whole project out. Then you've got to look at your monetization and say, listen, am I really going to make my money back if I'm only getting $20 in?
Okay.
So it's going to help you look realistically at what your outgoing is going to be every single month. And then you're going to have to figure out, okay, how much profit am I going to make? And that's going to determine whether the project's a real goer or not.
Okay, and I'll add to that by saying successful monetization of a website has almost nothing to do with reporting. Successful monetization of a website has to do with whether the user behavior is going to click through. And this does speak to, like everything that Matt just said about the reports, it's going to help you guide what type of products monetization there is. Absolutely. I think what is being asked here, because I know this person, is really about whether you're able to capture leads and whether people actually convert to sales after you've spent all this money with Domain Web Studio and everything to build sites. Okay. And here's an interesting thing. That connects very much to a question that Stephen also brought up, which is graphics, animations, persuasion. How do you get the clicks? Okay. So, and that's not to contradict anything that you just said, Matt. It's just I actually know the person who is asking the question, and I know what she's getting at.
No, that's fine.
Okay. So combined with the reporting and other things that we use, part of the process of the biggest secret that Domain Web Studio will not directly give you, having to do with highly converting websites, is all evident in our ISDNA process, okay, which is really not directly the reporting in Domain Web Studio. The reporting comes after the ISDNA is stacked up. If you don't do your ISDNA properly, the chances of you converting on the site is reduced a lot, because there's either the site won't convert based on banner, what you call ad placement. Okay, ad placement is, and also the compelling nature of a banner itself is independent of Domain Web Studio. The successful banner has to do more and more with what the web is responding to, and that is changing every day. Okay, so when we really look at user behavior, you actually want to provide, you really need to know the target market that's hitting your website. And if you've done the ISDNA process and the Domain Web Studio process from the ground up properly, you should be having an accurate and adequate understanding of the type of person that's hitting the site. And if you know what their fears, their pains, their concerns, their angst, their neurosis, and their addictions are, then and only then can you convert them on that website. Does everybody understand this? And remember, for all this highly, if I was to like literally demolish Domain Web Studio and Kraken, let's say it disappeared tomorrow, there was one thing that I could tell you, that your only hope of ever converting without our tools and our reports that give you the insight into this is that if you understand the addictions, the pains, the neurosis, the problems, the fears in a market, you build your site to speak to those fears, even intensify those fears. And then the banners, the conversions, and the monetizations on WR2 sites, what you do is you create a knight in shining armor effect, a golden light, become the golden boy, the golden solution, the problem solver, the soother of fears, the release of the neurosis, okay, a light at the end of the tunnel. That's what WR2s are about. It's about creating a solution, a relief from pain, fear, even if the entire site is nothing but fear and angst. The banner has to be the only thing that drives them to a solution. Now, the thing that most people fail at when creating gigantic monetization, giant monetization blogs, is they try to monetize too much. Right, Matt? I've done tests where people have 4 or 5 different monetization ads, all going to different things than the rest. Well, you know, and their only source of income, they only build WR2s. And they might get huge amounts of traffic through meme sites, through thumbs, through videos, whatever. But because they're not clearly matching the products and the ads to the solution, to the fear, the pain, the neurosis, the angst, the problems of the market, then they don't ever get those click-throughs. Second of all, they might have excellent target matching to those pains, neurosis, fears, and angst, but they have horrible banners. And I'll give you a tip to take into the new year, and we'll be adding more and more courses. Matt and I will be talking more about this. Sue and I will be talking more about this. People, use faces. Use emotional expressions. I've got a 1,000% conversion rate higher with a banner that's got a face in it that looks all freaked out than a banner that's just got a bunch of stupid words on it. Okay, we are moving into the Facebook generation. Okay, Facebook's going to be offering domains soon. Think about where things are going. Think about the surrounding golden frame, which is people-driven. Think about what happens in the laboratory when Gregory Burns started putting faces up in front of people versus just text and just words. Okay, dopamine and behavioral modification increases by anywhere from 20 to 60%. Use faces every chance you get on your banners. If you have a choice between a face and a text with a cool graphic that you think is really cool, use a face every time. It will trump it every time. Okay? When you have a choice between using a moving banner and a static banner with a face, use a static banner with a face every time, not a moving banner with no face. This is proven. Okay? Reticular activation is second, that is interruption, beta interrupt. It's second to a face. And this is true in 90% of the markets that I've tested. All right? So these are the things that I want you to get into a Facebook state of mind for 2013. And that's going to make your Domain Web Studio subscription, the empire building process that we're creating for you, it's going to increase conversion by anywhere from 2% to 5%, which is unheard of. This is why Facebook converts. But the thing is that the conversion inside of Facebook is actually going down as far as people actually buying because they're in a social state of mind. You have the opportunity on your site to create behavioral modification that gets people to convert by just the simple understanding, the simple memory, the simple heuristic that faces trump text. And the text has to be emotional. Okay, if you go to our website, www.brandtostick.com, we've got the 6 made-to-stick patterns that you need to have inside your banner. Put a face on the left or the right and put your nice bolded text, which is proven font. Speak directly to the fear, the neurosis, the problem, and the pain, and promise to be the solution. And you're going to get an increase of click-through anywhere 0.5% to 1% over just a plain text banner. So hopefully that helps a little bit. And Eve, you and I will talk more about this. and upcoming stuff. Just remember that there's one solution that Domain Web Studio doesn't kick out a banner already made for you. You've got to take the keywords and the testing and the reporting and all the stuff that Matt and I have given you, and you have to make one deduction from that. That one deduction is, okay, from our ISDNA process, from our fears and our pains, what is the greatest fear and pain and neurosis in that market? Okay, and believe it or not, Matt's reporting, the reporting that we set up, and especially the ISDNA process, the FAQ, the SAQ, there's a banner that should jump out at you. Okay, we don't build that for you because it's impossible. That would be artificial intelligence. That's the one step that you have to take to monetize, you guys, is what is that neurosis? And go ahead and split test those neuroses and those solutions and see what you're getting. You can actually test those with your split testing software. Okay?
Yeah, that's definitely something you got to do. All DWS does is it gives you the place to hold all this metadata, but you still got to make the decisions throughout the process. Just the process becomes simpler because it's all managed now for you.
That's right. That's correct. And remember, guys and gals, at the root of all pain, neurosis, fear, angst, desire, pleasure, whatever it is, underneath all of it there is one single ISDNA, and that's uncertainty. Yeah, brand2stick.com, Joel. Use the Heath Brothers Made to Stick book as your defining factor of how you tell your story. Okay, and that uncertainty is the one thing that every human being on earth is hedging against. So if you're not sure what your market is, or let's say you're mass producing blogs, just find the keywords and Domain Web Studio reports, everything that we're doing, they should point to what people are uncertain about. Okay, if you take 500 keywords and you look at all of them, if you zoom out, that's why we called it theme zoom, using TLK2 or Kraken, there should be a code in there that you're able to see when you get good as a web developer, as a researcher, as a DWS user. And that key is, oh, here's the single most important pain in this market. Quora is really good for that as well, and we'll be launching the Quora app January 10. Okay? When you see what those pains are, what those uncertainties are, then you speak to them, and that's going to become your banner. And you'll get better and better at distilling those, and then all of your WR2 sites will convert. Okay? Once you have that one banner that works, I'll use a single banner across multiple WR2 sites. Okay? For me, for example, in the curation industry, it's the golden frame. Curators are afraid of going broke. Right? Well, everybody's afraid of going broke, so that can be reduced to a lot of different industries. But just test different things, because every market fear, every market pain is slightly different in every industry. Okay. So I want to wish you guys a really happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, and I know that 2013 is going to be an amazing year. Matt is a madman, creating more and more reports that we're going to be able to take to the next level in 2013. Matt, I want to thank you so much for all the crazy hard work you've been doing.
No worries there.
And we have more to come, right?
Yeah, no, I'm playing with a whole bunch of stuff. Guys, I want to thank you guys for being with us this year. We appreciate you guys, and the feedback you've given us has helped us get the tool to where it is. So we'll continue to make things clearer and simplify as much as we can throughout the process. And with the DFYs coming up next year, we should be able to help you guys get your sites live. We're determined to get you guys up and running as fast as possible, so we are working on that. Have a great Christmas and have a wonderful New Year. Keep safe, drive safe, and I wish you guys all the best.
Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Have a great Christmas.